Thank you for coming to the Future of Hispanic Print seminar. We're very excited to be here in Miami and to host a seminar that hopefully, with everybody's help, will lead the future of Hispanic print in the positive way. As Hispanic print has become a major way of communication in the United States of America. We're joined here by an expert panels, but before we even go into our panel questions, can we take a look at a quick video that we've prepared for you?
Oye, tú veías, ese era un abismo, pero es que el acústico rústico, todo hecho a mano. No tengo que con un motor de carro para mover el aparato ese.
Spanish just runs in our blood. Spanish is what we feel comfortable, when we talk when we're in a party, when we talk when we're at home. Of course, we assimilate, we have businesses, we go to school, we do everything else that any other group ethnicity does, but we still like our Spanish. It's just like our food.
Muy importante para nosotros los emigrantes que venimos a hacer una vida en este país, contar con una noticia, con un periódico, con una información en tu propio idioma es demasiado importante.
I think our community really like still as versus maybe the general market to have a paper in their hands and to see the pictures and to read about the sports that is not covered in any other media as detail.
It's like you find a Mexican newspaper. It's just the same. The people just came, maybe sometimes just pull the car here, run to the store, buy a juice, or only take a newspaper and go to the job. It's very important for us.
Unfortunately, the general market does not really target Latinos. I'm a Latino myself. I read English and I read Spanish, but sometimes I trust the Spanish-speaking media a little bit more.
It's important to know what's going on in our culture and issues that affect us, and that's not always represented in mainstream media.
Es una de las fuentes originales de información y pues ellos lo respetan por eso.
Newspapers in Spanish are never going to die. Culturally, we like newspapers. We come from a culture where we really believe what a newspaper tells you, it's true.
It reminds them of home. It reminds them, it gives them that good feeling of, of being part of something.
There was a study done just recently, a couple of years ago, where they took the Latino market in the United States as a whole, compared its buying power, compared that to China, compared it to Russia, compared it to, I forget what other countries that are perceived to be the economic engines in the world. And we were in line with those countries as a population. I think people don't realize that.
People have to recognize the reality of this market. This market is one that's in movement. It's one that has lots of different levels of acculturation, has a lot of different levels of linguistic preferences and skills, and that's what's really dynamic and important.
True story is that Latinos in general now are really the market, and they will be for the next 50 years.
So this is a short video that it tells us what Hispanic print is in the United States. And I want to take the opportunity to thank EPNG, who is providing us some of the logistics for this seminar. And it takes a lot of research to be able to come in front of everybody and advocate for Hispanic print. My name is Ricardo Hurtado, and I'm the publisher and president and CEO of Hispanic Media. Our company started 21 years ago when I had no knowledge of journalism or no knowledge of the print industry. I fell into the industry by mistake. It's not what I do. It's not what I did right out of college, very young. 22 years later, we own a company that prints throughout the East Coast. And today here in Miami, we're here to launch our national platform. And the reason why we're doing that is because we believe, I'm very passionate of what I do for a living. And this is how I pay my bills, and I raise my daughter, and how we move forward. Print is very much alive. It embraces me when I come in front of people to talk about print and what we do. It's been, the studies show that every two Latinos read newspapers. And as we move forward, our panel of experts today will lead to prove that. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my panel today. And we have in our panel Ingrid Reyes, Executive Vice President and Director of Client Solutions Strategy Value at EPNG 360. Ingrid brings over 20 years of experience in executing communication and strategies. Most recently, Regis was Managing Partner and Director of Multicultural North America in Mindshare, New York. Regis led to help grow Mindshare's Multicultural Media Division in 2011 with over $250 million in billing in the U.S. Hispanic, Asian, Latin, gay, and African American business. Prior to moving from Mindshare, Regis worked at Global EU and Ana Santiago, where she presided over the creation of two separate multicultural media divisions. Regis, thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
We also have with us Isabela Sanchez. Isabela Sanchez, as Vice President of Media Integration. Isabela oversees the media planning for American Airlines, California Ford Dealers, Ford Motor Company, JP Morgan, Chase, Olive Garden, AC Johnson, Sunny D, and Walgreens. Ms. Sanchez brings over 20 years of Hispanic media experience with many of the largest advertising U.S. agencies in the markets. Isabela Sanchez currently serves as chairperson of the Association of Hispanic Advertising Agencies. In 2003, she was honored as the AHAA and Hispanica.com Media Planning Executive of the Year. Isabela earned a dual degree in journalism and Spanish and literature from the University of Maryland, and she also studied in La Complutense in Madrid, Spain. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. And third, we have Ana Crandell. Ana Congret is the Group Account Director of OMD Multicultural. Ana graduated from Northwest Missouri State University with a major in marketing and a minor in business. Ana started her advertising career at Lopez Negrete, an advertising agency in Houston, Texas. Then she moved to the Department of Alma DMV, where she managed U.S. Hispanic efforts with a broad host of clients. Ana played an integral role of the creation of OMD Multicultural in the launch of 2004. Ana also brings over 20 years of working experience in the multicultural space with emphasis of the Hispanic market. Ana, thank you for coming. Our panel today brings over 60 years of advertising, of expertise in the advertising industry. And I do have to excuse one of our panelists who unfortunately fractured his feet and wasn't able to come today, Victor Negron. Victor Negron is the National Vice President for AmeriHealth Caritas and has been a partner of our print business for many years. Without further ado, I'd like to pass over to the question and answers to our panel. And I'd like to start with Ana. There has been a lot of changes in fragmentation within the media mix. What do you believe the future of Hispanic print, and how does it apply to media planners and buyers today?
Hello. Okay. I think that's a very good question. I'd like to start by talking a little bit about how I see print. I think, to me, within this fragmentation that we've been experiencing in the print space, one thing has remained constant, and at least from a consumer and media planning standpoint, I hope that it continues to remain constant, and that is that in spite of all of the fragmentation out there, print, and specifically newspaper, via the printed piece or digital, continues to be considered the most credible source of information out there. And that's it, really at the core of what print and journalism stands for. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question was,
The question is
how does it apply to media planner buying today? Well, the beauty of this fragmentation has really resulted in a planner's ability to engage in a lot more of a niche approach, because with the different areas that are available on the print side as well as on the digital side, one now is able to really hone in on the niche market that you're trying to go after. The explosion of all of the digital information out there has really led way for planners and buyers to be able to engage on a more direct one-on-one conversation with our consumers. And print has really had the ability to do this, and now with the digital explosion, it's even able to do that on a more personal basis.
Thank you. Anna? I'm sorry, Ingrid, would you like to take out?
Okay, sorry, I thought you said Anna. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So I agree with everything that Anna says. It's very interesting because from our side of the desk, I guess you'll say, so at the beginning of every planning season for our clients, we have to sit down and say, well, how do we reach the consumer? What's the best way to engage them? And as Anna mentioned, print still does come up, whether it's secondary research or primary research, when we ask Hispanics, regardless of age and sort of how long they've been here. There's a constant that people like to read, right? That hasn't changed, right? So people read, and yes, there's other video options and things like that where they can get information, but the desire to read and the need to read and the purpose of print still remains constant. So we're still able to include that in media plans, but as we have more information, it becomes a little bit more challenging to talk about ROI and compared to some of the other media types, but still alive and well, I would say, in the minds of media planners.
Thank you. We will have a section for questions and answers at the end of the session. Going back to the media mixology, Univision Broadcast overall ranked to be supreme with the digital social commanding more in budgets and attention. How does this fit into your print media mix model? Ingrid will take it.
So yes, I think that the fact that print publications readership continues to grow. Nielsen just did a study 6 months ago, and it shows that readership is actually increased. We see in Los Angeles an engagement, not only readership, but engagement of the medium. The consumers really have a passion for connecting to what they're reading, to their countries, to their community, and being informed. So what that has led to is readership increase in top key markets. For example, in Los Angeles, we have a growth of readership of 79% increase, not only from a readership standpoint, but also from a circulation standpoint. We're seeing a lot of that being translated into newspaper growing their digital efforts in offering, and also the number of printed pieces that are out there. So we see it anywhere from 2% and up to 85% circulation increases, and that's proof that print continues to grow, budgets continue to grow. If there were no budgets that are growing, I don't think that Hispanic newspapers would be continuing to increase circulation.
Correct, and there's over 680 publications nationwide, Hispanic publications, that is, nationwide, that prove to that.
And actually, I'd like to add just
Sure.
a little hook to what Ingrid just mentioned. I think sometimes it's a little bit misleading when advertisers or vendors look at where the share of dollars are going, and they don't necessarily take into account the pricing dynamics of the different media. Because even though you may be seeing from a total dollar perspective a lot more dollars going to broadcast stations like Univision, Telemundos, or whatever, if you look at it from a more impression or GRP delivery standpoint, the print medium is actually they are getting a fair share of the market. Obviously, there's always more that the medium would like to gather, but it's important to look at it not just from a dollar perspective, but also from the amount of impressions that advertisers are using by media to engage with the different consumers.
And we as a media company, we as a newspaper also understand that, and we do case studies every time there's an event where we promote that. For instance, we were just here at the Festival de la Calle Ocho, where we had the opportunity to actually sponsor a tent. It's true that once we come out and put up a publication, then we do have to do media impressions. So when we go in front of the clients and sponsors, we are able to prove to them what reach their, what ROI they're getting in their investment and how they're getting that through that. So I do believe that. Next question. In the market where most of the dollars go to national media, how big of a role do local media play in your plans? Are your clients asking for more local activation in order to drive traffic into the stores or in order to increase sales? Anna, will you take it?
Yes, sure. I think the answer is absolutely. In fact, the buzzwords in the industry these days has been the need for a hyper-local approach. A lot of clients are looking for agencies and people like us to recommend a way to best allow their brand to engage on a more personal basis with their consumers. And a local activation coupled with more of a broader national approach has always been the right model to fully engage with people out there, especially with the local communities.
Ingrid, would you like to take a look?
Okay, yes, absolutely. I think definitely, from Walmart, who's our client, the conversation is, and we work together in some of the brands, Ford, and we see quite a bit of activity and the need and want from advertisers that do this from a national standpoint already, and they do it really well, to doing local activation, from having a integrated plan at a local level to actually doing the face-to-face with the consumer is really important, and we see quite a bit of dollars coming into that. That's our expertise, hyper local targeting, and definitely dollars are going towards that nowadays.
Thank you. Isabella?
Sure. Excuse me. I'll add. So I think that the funny part of marketing and advertising is that everyone gets all caught up in these buzzwords, right? And sometimes we all just have to stop for a moment and say, okay, someone who's sitting here in Miami or in LA, right? They're a consumer and they have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about national versus local or localization. So we have to remind ourselves we're trying to reach a person who lives in a community, right? And that person has no idea where their ad came from or how they're being targeted, right? So localization is key. It's how do you get the message to that person where they're going to be more receptive, and of course, depending on the category, like where they are at the moment of path to purchase, right? So if it's this bottle of water, it's very different from, going to a car dealership or going to what you mentioned, Walmart. So I think that's the most important thing. Everyone in this business right now is so caught up in all these words and this buzz, but at the end of the day, we're talking to people and we're trying to get them to buy more of the things that we're selling. So if we all kind of remind ourselves of that, we would be probably more effective in what we do. Right.
Yeah.
It is a sales game at the end of the day, and we as publishers or the publishers need to deliver, again, the ROI, return on investment. And I do also believe that the industry must evolutionate and we must evolve. We must evolve in the print industry. We must move our print industry also to the internet base. We must also become digital, and we must, as publishers, also understand where the industry is moving so that we can become effective in what we do. So we do welcome national platforms that educate the publishers on how to move forward. Next question is for Anna. From an agency standpoint, is that last mile retail and sale is so important? What is the perspective of national versus local activation?
Well, this is again sort of to echo what Isabella said. That local activation is absolutely key at that last stage of the, we call purchase funnel, right? We can utilize the national broad reaching media to inform a consumer about smart water. However, it really boils down, it really boils down to, by the time they walk into that Walmart, how are we going to make them or to convince them to choose this guy versus the other guy. That's where local activation and local media becomes absolutely integral. And more clients are looking for that fully holistic approach to all messaging communication, and that is making sure that you have both. You gotta do all of the talking, the convincing from a broader brand perspective here, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure that that consumer is selecting this over Zephyr Hills, and local media is where I think what's gonna do that job at the very last minute.
Thank you. Our print and digital plan strategies together for integrated programs are still planned in the separate silos? Anna?
Actually, I don't think that they've ever been, I mean, based on my experience, I don't think that print has ever really been planned as part of a separate silo. And I could be mistaken, maybe I misunderstood the question, but again, to echo what Isabella was saying, our jobs as media planners is to look at everything from the perspective of the consumer. And we know that the consumer is engaging with a multitude amounts of media at any given point. So we know that my day may start by listening to the radio while watching TV, while reading my tablet, while eating breakfast, while the TV is on. A lot of things are happening at the same time. So we know that there's a lot of holistic communication happening around the consumer. So it's our jobs as media planners to ensure that we approach our media planning in the same way. So thinking about just doing our broadcast planning first and then we'll talk about print is not really an approach that I really believe has ever been taken, nor would I recommend that it is.
Isabella, would you like to take it on?
Yeah, we've never, and everywhere I've ever worked, it's because it's media agnostic, if you will. So you start from what's the best way, and then you start doing sort of the plan and the costing and how much everything costs. I would say the reality is, though, if budgets were never an issue, we would probably advertise all of our brands and accounts in every media type that exists, right? You know, sometimes people come to me and they say, there's no print in your plan. Why is that? And I say, there's no good reason. We ran out of money, and the client, it's not their favorite media type, or we're going to let a different funding source get to that. But they're usually, it's not that we planners don't want to do things, it's that unfortunately budgets are limited. I'm thinking that maybe general market, because those agencies are so large, maybe there's print planners and digital planners, those huge accounts, but in our smaller worlds, it's much more media agnostic and planned together.
Yeah, and I could see how it may be perceived as being done in a silo when it comes down to the actual execution of it or the buying part of it. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, very much so. The print buyers will go out there and negotiate a print buy. However, the buyers are simply delivering on what the plan, the media strategy includes, and the media strategy was developed by a media planner who was thinking holistically on a media agnostic, like Isabella said, form. So,
thank you. Ingrid, would you like to take a crack at the question?
Sure. I think that from our end, me being a media girl for 20 years, now being on this side, on the EPMG side, and helping client solutions and helping agencies with their strategy, we had to develop, working with 700 plus publications, we had to develop a digital platform that offers that tablet and mobile and SEO offerings that are so necessary in, as agencies are doing their planning, to play in that media integration. So there's no dollars for print, which is not always the case, right? It's just a reality. That we can play on the digital world and maybe perhaps play on from a national to a local level, and also from an SEO standpoint. We're developing a software to do hyper-local SEO, and we're starting to work now with Walmart on that end, so that not only the conversation stops at print, but also on the digital side.
And that's how we believe in the print industry. We must evolve and go to the next level. And digital, of course, it's what's going to be. In this conference today, we are full of internet bloggers and people that reach via internet communication, which is phenomenal. We in the print industry, we provide an arm and we provide a reach that goes beyond that. And in the industry, we must also evolve to become digital and work with SEOs and all those platforms. Has there been any case studies that you have worked with as an agency and any proven clients or campaigns in the print industry that have evolved? Isabella?
Yes, many. So print is often part of a media mix, right? So then when it's part of a media mix, it's hard to figure out, well, what contributed to sales. But we have very specific cases where we only use newspapers. So I'll give you an example. So for Chase Bank, when we open new branches, right, we only do local newspapers because, as you probably all know, opening a bank account is a very personal experience, right? And it really is, you're only going to open a bank account in a very specific neighborhood, right? So we can very hyper-local target that. We don't need necessarily TV and radio for that because it's too broad. And very direct results, lifts, if you will, in traffic and account openings. Sometimes there's coupons, so that's a very easy way to track. And sometimes there's not, and there doesn't always need to be a coupon. But that's the most recent example that I have at the top of my head, but it's proven every time we do a new branch opening and we do surround the area newspapers, we do very well.
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anna?
Yeah, one of the efforts that immediately came to mind was the effort that we had for McDonald's, one of our clients, in which we used local newspapers, not only to deliver the message about a particular promotion, in this case, the Monopoly promotion, which I think most people are aware of what that is. But a few years ago, in addition to actually promoting the fact that the Monopoly game was back on at McDonald's, we also had to find a way to actually get the game boards in the hands of the consumers. And print played an integral role in their ability to do that and put it in the hands of the consumers on a very hyper-local targeted approach. And we did that obviously via the print form as well as the electronic form to the varying websites.
Ingrid?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll bring up Walmart and their efforts to, and the money they put against local, hyper-local activation. We put about 20 million pieces of FSIs and circulars out every week for them around the country, 52 times a week. You can do the numbers, and they continue doing it and investing that much money. This year, I think they're increasing budgets like 30%. Just, the power of that, holding that piece that is so, it's passed around the household, and that is so personal to each different consumer at home is very, it's incredible. That proves the investment that Walmart is really doing in the marketplace proves the fact that it's really, the ROI is there, and that it's working for them.
Ingrid, did you say 30% increase in budget? Do I have any kind of secret? We can raise rates. But it's true, Walmart is one for prime FSI inserts, and we do all 4 states with them. And over the years, we've seen the increase on distribution, and obviously that, as a publisher, it helped us bring in our numbers in distribution. And I mean, that's a great partnership. When we get the product, we have to deliver, and the paper comes out, and it looks thicker, and it gives newspaper more vibes. So it's a perfect partnership when those accounts, the FSI's accounts come in. We're also happy to hear about 30% increase. So there's a lot of going on in these digital days as planning buying goes. From media direct sales effort to ad exchange and pragmatic, since we're talking about Hispanic print and digital, what is the perspective on the right approach of U.S. Hispanic market for digital display and video? Anna?
Personally, I think that there are many benefits to taking a programmatic approach. Obviously, the most obvious benefit is the ability to really hyper-target and be able to deliver upon a very specific set of KPIs. However, on the other hand, I also believe that there are a lot of benefits to having more of a contextual relevance approach to what you do via digital. OMD, where I work, we also have a trading desk, so we are very well engaged in the programmatic game, if you would. And my perspective is that as media vendors, as publishing houses continue to evolve on their offerings, they really should be trying to play in both spaces. Because again, there's always a reason why we use a programmatic approach versus a contextual relevance approach. It really depends on what kind of campaign you're trying to activate. So as a publisher, it makes you a lot more marketable to be able to deliver on both ends of the spectrum.
Thank you, Isabella.
So I work in probably the complete opposite agency as Anna does. I work at a much smaller agency, small minority-owned, family-owned here in Miami. So we don't have global offices, and we don't have, relative to OMD, the amount of volume of clients. We have great big clients, but not that volume. So we haven't had that pressure from clients to create a trading desk, but we have been doing some testing, sort of using vendors to do some of the programmatic. And again, there's a role for that, sort of when you want volume and targeting, and then there's a clear role for very specific engagement, very specific KPIs that should be met that aren't as much about the volume and the low CPM. So we're testing and learning every day with all the new technology. And now, of course, there's all this skepticism about, 50% of all those impressions, are they real anyway? So that's the latest thing that everyone is really looking at, the validity of those reports, and we'll see what happens from there.
Ingrid?
Yeah, so from our end of the spectrum, programmatic buying is definitely a challenge because you're dealing with a software where every publisher has to input the information, which is quite complex. And you're competing with 1,200, 1,500 publications or other vendors that have the same sort of banners, displays, videos, and all of that. And so what the reports that come out are just based on, yes, KPIs, and those KPIs are based on CPMs. So, to compete with a database that is 100,000 vendors long, it's tough. It's tough. So being in that digital space is not easy. So how do you compete and survive in a space where CPM really rules the world? Rules the world. So it's challenging from our end in the publishing world.
Thank you. The race of sponsored content and native advertising is a hot topic in the advertising and editorial departments and publishers. What are your current clients doing with this space, and how successful have they been at it? Isabella?
This is fun. So I was making fun a little bit earlier about how we use all these fancy marketing terms, right? So when everyone started talking about native, right, a few years ago, they were like, native, isn't that like an advertorial? I mean, I think the print industry created advertorials in the 1800s, right? And now they're called native, and so everyone thinks it's fancy. But obviously, in the digital world, it's much more targeted, and what has proven, we do a lot of that. So we do a lot in different veins for our clients. And every day it changes, right? So now we can do sponsored tweets, or sponsored posts, and that becomes a different element. But in its most simplistic way, what it is giving consumers the kind of content that they're already engaged in, right? So if they're reading an article about where I'm gonna vacation in Miami, perhaps, and all of a sudden they're served an ad for this lovely water that we were talking about before, right? That might refresh them while they're there. That's very relevant to them. So we do a lot of it. It performs much better than regular untargeted banners, if you want to call them that. And it's going to continue to evolve. But the danger, though, is, right, and we all know this when we launch a page, right, of any type, it gets to be a little overwhelming sometimes. Sometimes you just want to read an article as a consumer, right? You don't want all this stuff and all these words highlighted and popping out at you. So I think that's, you'll hear consumers say, no, I just want to read a print edition of something so I don't have to be bombarded by all the negative advertising. So we try to do a balance so that we're not bombarding. And I think what they say too is, if a marketer thinks that their advertising is organic, it probably really isn't. Yeah. Right, so that's our challenge.
Organic and direct.
Yeah.
Some words that we hate, but
yeah.
Anna? Yeah. That's another buzzword, right? Organic.
Yeah.
We too are playing in that space. A lot of our clients have been doing a lot of development of content and try to sort of infiltrate the conversation in a subtle way. We're doing that a lot online with video. It is a very dangerous path to kind of travel, however, because to Isabella's point, a lot of consumers start getting upset or agitated about being served an ad. And if it doesn't look organic enough, then you could actually turn that consumer against your brand. So it's a very challenging environment to sort of play in. That said, and I know we're having the conversation more as it relates to the print newspaper world, I really believe that is a space, the newspaper industry needs to be extremely careful about allowing advertisers to do that. Because to me personally, I mean, newspapers, like I said before, they really remain as the most credible source of information. And consumers sort of hold the newspapers at a much higher standard when it comes to being objective about the information that they're putting out there. And I truly believe that that's what makes the newspaper industry different and most valuable. Thank you. And you know, I actually should have prefaced this by saying that I am married to a journalist. So the dinner table conversations are very interesting, but I understand the majority of the people that we hang out with on the weekends are from his world, if you would, and they're the most passionate people I have ever met. And I'm looking at this gentleman over here. I'm assuming you're a journalist, or you have the same feeling. So all this to say that, and I don't know if we are going to go over that question, but I think that one of the topics of conversation we were going to talk about today was whether or not the newspaper industry should play in that space. And my personal recommendation would be not to. Stay true to what you are, and that is remaining that credible source of information, and don't compromise that credibility just for the quick advertising buck.
Thank you. Very informational. Thank you very much. I must say I was not aware that your husband is a journalist, but I'm glad that I know now, and it advocates for our panel more. But without being prejudiced, I wasn't aware of that. I have one more question that we can turn around for questions. Do we have questions and answers? Do we have questions? We're going to turn around into questions in a few minutes. Advocating for the journalism, for the publishers. I'm a publisher. This is an open question for all three. Obviously, I'm 100% for community content in both being informational and inspirational to our readers. But at the end of the day, we also need advertising support dollars. I'm sure that the other 680 newspapers throughout the country, the publishers also are the same question. From your perspective, what do we need to do better, and what do our teams must understand to improve our quality of publications?
Okay, I think the 680 of you need to band together and do some PR for your industry. So that the perspective right now that the industry has is print is dying, because that's what they see in the general market, right? So everyone's reading about how the Wall Street Journal circulation is down, and the oldest newspapers in the country are down. So while Hispanic circulation is up, as you were mentioning, no one knows that. And no one is going to do the research on their own to find that. And while you guys, Ingrid, you and your company are very good about communicating that, I think from a much broader view to marketers, so advertise that and tell the stories. So you were talking about case studies. People need to see these case studies, and a lot of times, I'm sure you get it too, right? So we're challenged often by the print industry. You know, you're giving 90% of your money to everybody else, and we don't even get 10%. Well, why is that? So there's many reasons, and it's not necessarily a share of dollar conversation, as Anna mentioned, but also the other industries that get the share they get, right? So that the TV industry, the radio industry, the digital industry, they've put a lot of money behind getting that share. So Univision, someone mentioned them before, ask them how much money they have spent over the last 10 years to get the money they get. Millions. Well, you could say, well, we don't have millions because you're all small publishers, but it doesn't have to be at the degree that they've done, but they've done proprietary research. They've attacked the companies head on, like Nielsen, to make sure that they're measured properly. So in a way, you might argue they kind of deserve, you get what you deserve. So the print industry, the newspaper industry right now, I would say you all might be being a little bit too quiet and respectful. So I know there's conferences every year, but you talk to yourselves, right?
Yes.
I used to go to those conferences, right? So you need to get your voice out there. So that's what you need to do. Because no one knows how powerful the print industry is, or the great stories that might be behind some of the cases.
Thank you.
Yeah, I echo much of what Isabella just mentioned, but in addition to that, I also believe that the newspaper industry is at a crossroads where you actually need to start thinking about a way to reinvent yourself. However, make sure that you stay true to who you are at the core. Reinvent yourself without giving away the credibility, giving away the awesome, objective editorial that your journalists produce. Insert yourself into the conversations, but do it in a way that you are providing intelligent conversations. You are the intelligent person at the table. You are the journalist, I think journalists are very intelligent, but you are that person at the table, and you are participating as part of the table, but you're doing it in a unique way, and you are staying true to yourself, and you are remaining that credible source of information that you've always been and you will continue to be.
Thank you. Ingrid?
Yeah, I agree with Isabella and Anna. I think that staying true is very important. But also, I think that the industry obviously has gone through a transformation. It has gone into the digital world. We built and deployed over 20 sites for 20 publishers around the country for the Hispanic group. And doing so also have developed quite a bit of content to build up traffic into these publications. I think that 30% of the money we put into of the revenue that we get every year is put back into R&D. Our CEO Trevor spends quite a bit of money. He believes that doing PR, letting people know that actually print is growing, readership is growing. The web has allowed the people who perhaps didn't have the time to actually read the paper and pick it up in the morning to read it anywhere they want, to whenever they want it, wherever they are. That has grown readership. I was just at the 4A's conference a couple of weeks ago in LA. The New York Times has grown over 30% of the readership just based on paid subscription, just based on the digital platform that they have. The New Yorker magazine has grown from 3 million circulation, that was the actual printed magazine that they had, very niche to New York. Now they have over 30 million paid subscriptions around the country. Same thing happening in the Hispanic market with, as I said before, Nielsen study that EPNG actually sponsored, and we continue to put money into developing that. We're also, we were at a meeting yesterday for the new Hispanic association that's being created to the NHMA, which is going to help the print world, in the Hispanic world, unite and have one voice so that we can bring the news that we are growing, that print is essential in the plans and in the consumer's life every day.
Thank you. And we do believe that this organization will help us lead to the next century. And as everybody talks about being culture and culturalization of the community, I remember growing up, and as far as I can remember, every Sunday, my grandfather will go downstairs, pick up the newspaper, have a cup of coffee, and read that big, thick newspaper for as long as it takes, an hour, 2 hours. And that's what I remember, and that's what we grew up remembering. So we stay true to what we believe. Our distribution platform has also grown. We started in Philadelphia. Now we're in 4 major cities, and we'll be announcing 2 more cities before the end of the year. So it does goes to show that if we become cutting edge and involved, we will succeed in the printing business, and in the media printing business, I should say. Do we have any questions? We do have a few minutes if there's anybody has any questions. Yes? Your name?
Good morning. When you talk about, print media, is it always with, newspaper, magazines, and like big, basically, print suppliers, or do you also collaborate, with the smaller brands that might provide you, depending on the client, that target market that you're looking for? I'm kind of thinking of, if you have a children's book and you have, for example, Walmart trying to reach the Latina mom on a direct basis, giving it content that is culturally relevant for the kids in Spanish, which is hard to find. I mean, do you also think that when you're creating, these campaigns? And how do you get
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we did something similar to what you just suggested in trying to engage with our moms on behalf of McDonald's, one of our clients. We did it a few years ago where we actually partnered up, and I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was Scholastic, who was able to print a set of children's books that were highly targeted to bilingual, and I'm trying to think if that was, I can't remember if they were in Spanish and English or if they were in English, but they were geared toward engaging the children of immigrant parents. So the short answer to your question is yeah, absolutely. And clients, and I'm sure Isabella will say the same, clients are constantly looking for creative ways to engage with their consumers. So that would be something that ideally ad agencies like ourselves would come up with.
Yeah, so we call it the custom publishing world, right?
Yep.
Because what our clients say to us every day, and I haven't told you, we haven't compared notes, but I'm sure it's exactly the same in your world, is what's unique, how can I be different, right? So the only way you can be different if you do something that no one else does. So custom publishing opportunities they're a little more costly,
yes,
right, than mass media, if you will, but they're certainly welcome.
It's definitely a much harder sell.
Yes.
Because of the price tag attached to them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I would like to know what is your perspective about the future on the printed media in Venezuela, which is basically disappearing. And countries like Ecuador, we have already 7 small newspapers that are gone.
Latin America is not my expertise. I would say that's very sad.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
I think we can all say we'll have felt for that situation in Venezuela. It's more of
That's a political
Political
that's for political
issue.
reasons and not because of lack of interest, right?
I would agree that it's not because of lack of leadership or anything. In fact, here in Miami, I found that the Venezuelan communities are strong readers. We have a strong readership in the Venezuelan community.
Not my area either, but I agree. And I think isn't it more as a result of the corruption that exists in the country?
Yeah, it's more of a political issue that
the
they're
government, yeah.
Senor, the last question. Yes.
Hi, I'm actually with a radio network, but similar.
You're welcome.
So we talked to what the radio industry is trying to do, what you mentioned about integrating, offering services that evolving along with the rest of all the other mediums. And the challenge we have is we talk to brands and agencies, mostly buyers. It's hard to get in touch with planners, so that's why I'm standing up now to ask you. we go and talk, when we do get through to planners, I am shocked at the bad information some planners are working with as it relates to the Hispanic market. I see information, I see plans or strategies that are based on data that's like 5-6 years old for big brands, and it's surprising to me because these are big agencies. And I'm wondering, is there any kind of would you recommend for the print industry getting together and sharing best practices? Do you do that among media planners to maybe update the collective community on maybe the latest information about the Hispanic market?
Yes. So, well, there's an organization, right? Well, there's two. So the 4As, which Ingrid mentioned, sometimes there's Hispanic information panels, discussions there, right? And then there's the Association of Hispanic Ad Agencies, right? I guess the reality and the sad part about sort of a trend in the business right now is a lot of Hispanic planning is being done by individuals because of consolidation that don't really have any expertise or background in the area, right? So, OMD is a company, but they have a division called OMD Latino that Anna runs, and so any plan needs to be done by her and her team. But there's some agencies, they're like, we can do this, how hard can this be? Right. And they go on misinformation and they're delivering it to clients who have no idea. Right. So if they don't know that it's wrong, right? Right. And it's really very simple. In a formal job that I had, I'll give you an example. There was a pinch, nobody was around to do an Asian media plan, literally. And they said, Isa, can you do this plan for the Asian market in San Francisco? And I said, I have no idea how to do that, that's not my thing. And they said, please do it. So what did I do? I picked up the phone and I called a bunch of people and I got some information, but I don't even know if what they gave me was current, right? To your point, right? It could have been 5 years old. And I slapped this thing together and guess what? The client bought the plan. I don't even know if it was right, but what that showed me is that happens all the time in marketing. Sad, but it's true.
Thank you. That concludes our discussion for today. Can we give our panelists a round of applause? Thank you for coming. Thank you.